Hi everyone, welcome back to Gary's Casual Chat. Join me as I sit down with friends who are shaking up industries with their cool startups. We dive into their entrepreneurial journeys, innovative ideas, and the challenges they face. It's all about inspirations, insights, and the stories behind the startups making waves, where innovation meets friendship. Today, we have a passionate entrepreneur and a very good friend of mine, Clarence Smith, on our show. It's my honor to introduce him to everyone. Say hi to the audience.
Hi guys. Thanks for having me, Gary.
All right, to get started, we'll start with a little intro. So why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your journey before you founded Snowflake Labs?
Yeah, before myself and Senthil founded Snowflake, I was studying neuroscience at the University of San Francisco. I worked in mental health and education, and so as a special education teacher and clinician for children on the autism spectrum in Oakland, there were lots of challenges. Often using materials from wealthier school districts, and making photocopies of textbooks in San Francisco to run over to my Oakland kids. And, fast forward to when the strike happened. And then I found myself pivoting into biotech, where I've spent the last decade or so in research and regulatory for novel medical products in hematology and neurology.
Wow, that's amazing. So today you're coming onto the show as the founder of Snowflake Labs. You have shown me a video
Co-founder.
before. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have shown me a great video before explaining why you and your co-founder Sandro decided to dedicate your passion, your time, your effort, your resources to founding Snowflake Labs, which I'll attach a link to our show notes. But could you just give the audience a quick rundown again on why you decided to started Snowflake Labs?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, amid if you could think back to the 2021 shelter in place order, not that long ago, a close friend of ours moved to the Bay Area for work. He battled clinical depression, and so seeking connection, he found solace in a music collective that would host, um, you know, beach events, music events. And so, tragically, one night he uh, purchased tainted drugs, um, and Senthil and I saw him being resuscitated into at the base of the Golden Gate Bridge. And so, it really spurred Senthil and I into action. And we reached out. We reached out to nonprofits. Next Distro was one of them. Dance Safe was another, and sought solutions. Dance Safe provided fentanyl testing strips, and Next Distro provided Narcan, which is an opioid reversal agent, to really help prevent further tragedy to the community. And so, out of that experience, Snowflake was born.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I know there must be a lot of obstacles and some might cause stigma around creating products that some might view as encouraging drug use. And a lot of people will probably think of that as a gateway to drug abuse and a lot of the problems that come with recreational drug use.
Sure.
So if you have to summarize, what would you say is the mission and vision of Snowflake Labs?
Yeah, so our mission at Snowflake is really simple, and that's three things. The first is, you know, to create products that enable people to make better decisions. And we do that in three ways. We're going to pioneer mobile drug identification by leveraging smartphones. And we're going to do that in the hardware space, where we develop our Snowflake One, which is a laser technology for handheld drug analysis. The second component to this is combating the opioid crisis. While we can't, prevent, stop abuse, we can certainly enable people to make informed decisions, right? And so, our solutions directly address the devastating impacts of opioid overdoses and deaths. And then the third is enabling harm reduction, and empowering people who do use drugs, who continue to use drugs, and prevent any accidental overdoses.
That's really amazing.
So,
I think
so
it's really courageous. I really admire that you and Centro decide to take on this problem that could be very sensitive, but it's
yes,
also so impactful, potentially life changing for
yep,
so many people, right, in this city, in the neighborhood,
yep,
people that we know, people that we love, who could definitely benefit from this kind of technology. So
right.
I just want to say that, yeah, I think you're taking on like a really awesome challenge.
Thank
I
you.
think it's just really courageous and admirable for you to do that. So now getting a little more into the product that you're developing, why don't you tell us an overview of Snowflake Labs and the testing devices you're developing to detect fentanyl in these recreational drugs?
Absolutely. So yeah, we are, Berkeley based. We make hardware and software solutions, right? In order to, um, uh, advance mobile laser technology in order for safe consumer drug analysis. Um, our flagship device, our first iteration, the Snowflake One, is a portable, reusable mobile drug identifier, and that uses Raman laser spectroscopy for lab level accuracy of the identification, qualitative identification of opioids in solid samples. So if you think kind of like to the keychain blood alcohol readers, this is really a keychain spectroscopy, and so that works in tandem with our iOS mobile app, which provides results on the qualitative identification of substances in the samples. So yes or no, right? Opioids detected, yes or no. In samples like street cocaine, street ecstasy, as well as some location-based notifications that provide harmful or that provide drug reports and trends in your area, right? So if very similar to the Citizen app, if there's an overdose nearby, I'd like to know about it. I think it'd be helpful for the community to know about it, and using our analysis of the samples, better inform the user of whether or not one should put something in their body.
No, yeah, absolutely. As soon as you mentioned the location-based service, yeah, citizens was sort of the analogy that formed in my head. And I think it would be very, very useful to have that kind of knowledge, to just know that where problems might occur, what might be the hot zone, um, where to avoid
Right.
this kind of like very dangerous substances, right? So
Sure.
um, now I know that there is existing technology that basically performs the same sort of detection, to detect these contaminated drugs, right? So
Right.
compared to the existing technology, how does Snowflake differ in cost, in reliability? It does sound a lot more portable. That seems to be a main focus. But yeah, just also comparing that to existing solutions. Would you mind just telling us how Snowflake is different?
Absolutely. So, you know, the so the problem we aim to solve is the harm from using untested drugs, right, due to limited and impractical testing solutions. We know that since 1999, a million people died from a drug overdose. 64% of that figure has been from opioids, right? That comes from the CDC. Regulators and government have launched a war on drugs. That's failed. Pharma's offered Narcan, which is a good reactive solution to the crisis, but it doesn't help prevent an overdose. It only stops it, right, once it's already in motion. And so, biotech's proposed testing strips. Those are, often inaccessible, prone to user error and inaccuracies. So, what we're finding is consumers, public health, law enforcement are seeking cost effective, high quality drug tests for enhanced safety and harm reduction. Think condoms and contraceptives. Currently, what's on the market there's three alternatives to our device. And so BTNX, based out of Ontario, Canada, and your neck of the woods, they are one of the largest manufacturers of these testing strips. Uh, I believe they sell for $1, if not more, per strip. Uh, Again, some of them are limited to just fentanyl. Um, some have more applications. Some have limitations in their sensitivity, their accuracy compared to electronic confirmatory tests. They're also single use, right? They do create waste, they're easily counterfeit, and the sample in which you're testing is destroyed. Um, uh, to electronic alternatives comes actually from our partner, Thermoscientific, and that's the TrueNarc handheld analyzer. That's been in use by the TSA and the DEA. They have multiple applications and substances that they test for. They are substantially higher cost compared to what we are producing. One TrueNarc handheld analyzer is upwards of $40,000,
Wow.
and they have very complex functions and applications. Like what you would use in bomb detection or food analysis. And then the last one is the Stellar RAM handheld analyzer, which basically does half of what the TrueNarc does, and again is used for bomb and food and drug analysis. Those are upwards of $20,000, right? So what's on market works, but it is really geared towards law enforcement and you know the people with the budget, right, to afford 20 to 40K devices. Whereas we believe very strongly in, yes, the law enforcement and public health markets, and the consumer market as well, enabling the everyday person to make better choices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The 20,000, 40,000 price
it's a
tag
lot.
makes it sound like a collectible.
Yeah, right.
It's
Yeah,
like
but
having
not
one
for
of
us.
those.
No.
Not at all. I mean, that's a hefty price tag to have for basically a life-saving device, right? It
Absolutely.
kind of blows my mind how accessible the existing technologies are. So it's awesome to hear that you're coming to the market with an accessible solution,
Right.
especially a lot of people in the community that would need this sort of devices
Absolutely.
definitely want to have it at a much more reasonable price point so that
Yeah,
they can use it consistently.
there's a clear value proposition of affordability, reusability, and speed and ease of use, and that's really what we aim to do.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. Let's pivot to now talk about the people that will be using your
sure,
devices, right? The community in the city, the people who are using recreational drugs.
sure.
Um, how does the prevalence of fentanyl contamination impacting the community right now from what you've seen, from stories that you've heard, and how does your technology address this negative impact on the community?
That's a really good one. Um, you know, I there's a story I don't tell too often. Um, in the early days of undergrad, there was a bus line that I think it was the bus 14 on Muni,
Mm.
right on the corner of St. Ignatius, where our cathedral is at the University of San Francisco. And um, I took the bus once, and I'm sitting there, and it's going headed towards Golden Gate Park, and there's a man sitting in the front row, and he falls over. So no one's really doing anything. No one's checking to see if he's okay. So go up to him. He's on the floor at this point, and I tap first. I shake, and then I ask, "Sir, are you okay?" I flip him over, and that's when I saw the syringe protruding from his arm. And so you know, fentanyl and drugs devastate communities, right? Um, we're uniquely positioned, being in the Bay and in Berkeley, um, where is massive spikes in overdose deaths in San Francisco. And that really strains emergency services. And it just further exacerbates the public health crisis, right? And so we know that through public health research at the UCSF, the issue disproportionately affects vulnerable populations, right? So homeless, vets, minorities. Um, so we need social change, right? And
Absolutely.
tech and we believe that Snowflake can address this critical problem by providing compact laser spectrometers to detect, right, the presence of narcotics quickly and accurately by the people who perhaps don't want to take this, right? Making drug testing more accessible and reliable, and empowering people to identify what substances they're taking, and to promote safer drug use practices. Um, and so this approach helps save lives and supports a broader harm reduction effort within the community.
Yeah, that's a really heartbreaking story to hear about what you experienced on Muni, because of two folds for me. Number one, it's devastating to hear any human being going through that kind of experience and just being that helpless, right, out on the street, defenseless,
Yeah,
really not in a good state to take care of themselves.
yeah,
But at the same time, it's really saddening to hear that people are afraid to help,
yeah.
right? And in some sense, it's reasonable to have that kind of um, alertness around this, because
It's a very
there's
scary. It's a
syringes.
very scary thing, and they may not be equipped to help. Right?
Exactly, it's
Yeah.
exactly it's a very sensitive matter. If you deal with it wrong, you might exacerbate the problem, right, that the
Sure.
person experiencing. Um, so I think that's a great example of the real change that your device could make, literally on the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It'll take more than it'll take education, right? It'll take resources. It'll take legislation. But in the end, Senthil and I are scientists, right? And so we are approaching the problem the best we know how, the best way we're equipped to. And so we really are excited about the opportunity that lies ahead.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So, how do you plan to distribute your devices to these people who are in need of such technology, right?
Yeah.
Especially given sometimes the special nature of their living circumstances, right? They might not have a permanent address,
Sure.
right? They might be live on the street or a temporary shelter. So yeah, how do you plan to distribute your device to the people that really need them?
So that's a good one. So, you know, our business model is the following, and before I want to get into that, I want to sort of talk about who our audience may be and the people that may use our device. So, um, we are right manufacturing these devices, and um, our our basic user we have been tracking looks something like this. They're over the age of 18 uh, in the consumer world, right? They may be a recreational substance user. Um, some of them, alternatively, we have people in law enforcement and public health, right? So institutions. Um, and so the substances that either case come in contact with um, are the following, right? You have marijuana, cocaine, and LSD. Those are the most common in the United States. And so, as of 2021, about 130 million people in the US reportedly, right, had used marijuana at some point in their life, while 41 million had used cocaine and about 30 million had used LSD. So, when you get into some of the profiles of what's encountered, you'll find that the people that most need our device are people that use on a regular basis, um, and they will want to enact proactive measures to avoid getting contaminated drugs. Um, we have very high overlap with people that use fentanyl testing strips. We found that out of the 600 respondents to our survey, and mostly harm reduction groups and focus groups, uh, the people that are most likely to use our device are the people that have already used fentanyl testing
Mm.
strips, right? So uh, that's that's a very uh, big opportunity for us, and something we'd like to pursue. In terms of distribution, right? Um, it'll vary. So, if you're B2B, right, you're probably dealing with these institutions directly. We have a great partnership coming up with the city of Berkeley.
Mm.
One of our members on our team, Ben Bartlett, who's city council member here in South Berkeley, I believe, District 6. And so that district has been hit particularly hard because of some of the encampments that are near the BART station, and so on and so forth. Right? If you're B2G, you'll be dealing with law enforcement. If you're B2C, you're going to retailers like Amazon or direct to consumer, right,
Yeah.
on our website. And so that's really the layout and the positioning that we're pursuing.
So one thing that you talked about during your discussion of the distribution, it's the local market that you're touching right here in Berkeley.
Absolutely.
So what impact do you hope your testing device will have on reducing the fentanyl-based overdoses and deaths, etc.?
Yeah. So, as is the case with fentanyl test strips, our aim is substance identification. Um, we're focused on expanding the options for identifying drugs with harmful additives, and we believe fentanyl testing strips are an invaluable resource and really great harm reduction tool. Tens of millions of people use fentanyl test strips in North America alone. There's 1 million in just California. And so, we really aim to start locally and spread globally. In terms of, access, um, your partnerships are going to be critical, right? So that's partnering with the Department of Health, and that means talking to local nonprofits, and our one of the scientific advisors, Dr. Dan Land at UC Davis, who is who heads the labs of physics and chemistry, does collaborate with the local health departments, and so whatever trial runs they need, we're thinking of enlisting their help to have a stationary device where they run through tests at a given site, right? So think safe testing zones, etc. Dance safe is even a position uniquely, right, to be at a lot of events where substance testing
Yeah.
is enlisted. So your partnerships and people are really how Snowflake advances.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Drawing on the power of the community and
absolutely.
giving back to the community. Talking about partnership, one thing I'm curious about is how do you handle the delicate matter of privacy, right?
Sure.
You're partnering with people who are participating in recreational substance use. You're also forming partnership with the local law enforcement, other public entities, and a lot of times, people who are recreational substance users probably don't want their usage
Sure.
to be known by the government, the local enforcement agencies, etc.
Right.
So, um, how would you protect the privacy um, of the users?
Well, what's great about the, you know, our device and the integration with the app is all of the data is local on the device or the phone itself. Nothing is transmitted over data
Mm.
connections, right? The analysis is done natively in the phone. Um, and just to be clear, the partnerships with institutions like local law enforcement, public health, that's limited to um, you know they're enlisting our device in order for testing to be done as a free service. The very same way that fentanyl test strips are given to nonprofits and places where they're often needed, right? There's I we will never mass collect data on users in terms of where they're using, how they're using. Not even, we don't ask for location. So we're very much, privacies are, it's, I mean, without trust, there's not even a reason for us to be doing business. Um, so that's where we're at, and that's where we'll stay as long as I'm here.
Yeah,
Senthil and I are here.
really well said. So this is a recorded evidence that we will hold you accountable to.
Absolutely, absolutely, and likewise to any ne'er do wells, right? Um, but again, it's very difficult. That would be a very difficult, not impossible, but very difficult to try and undo a lot of good that a company, right, with a mission to prevent as much overdoses as we can, right? So
That's amazing.
yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit more about the business side of things. So to start with, there are people who may criticize your product or your mission by saying that it encourages drug use. What's your response to those kind of accusations?
Well, you kind of almost have to laugh. I remember there's a really good physician response anecdote to something like this. Uh, and I'm assuming that their critique is one of the consumer side, right, and not the good we're doing with public health, which countless companies do, and countless scientists and physicians continue to do. It went something like, I think there was a senator somewhere in the Midwest who wanted to take away and strip safe injection site zones. Um, and one of the doctors who was leading the legislation, pro legislation, was like, well, what we should do is every person who's against it, we should send the injector to their door and to their local Starbucks, and we'll see, right? We'll see how they feel, right? So, um, it's silly. Drug use and overdoses are at an all-time high. It's the leading cause of death amongst the youth, and it's going to happen and continue until we do something about it, whether or not our device is around, right? So we are at a critical junction here. We are in a position to help, and we need social change, and we need to help, and that's what we plan to do.
I think that's really important to let everyone hear that, right? I think, like you said, there are problems that have always existed. And while we all want to implement social change
Sure.
legislation to really address those issues, at the same time as they're happening, we can still implement measures to reduce the harm that they bring to
Absolutely.
people, to communities.
I mean, it's like, look at what they did with prohibition, right? In the early U.S. days. Just because alcohol is illegal doesn't mean that people will stop doing it,
Yeah.
drinking it, consuming it, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, yes, so our belief is a positive social impact, partly advanced by technology and education.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What about the competitors that might stand your way for you to achieve your mission, right? There's big pharma businesses that have a profit to make in the existing technology that they've invested a lot of money into. How do you plan to compete with the big pharmas?
Well, we're not really competing. We don't plan on competing with big pharma, you know, and when I think of big pharma, right, I think of like Eli Lilly and Pfizer, and uh, you know, if anything, one of our partners, again, I can't bring up how partnerships are critical and very important to the success of anywhere, right? Whether it's interpersonal relationships or corporate relationships, partnerships are key, right? And so what we've done with Thermo Fisher in being accepted into the Jumpstart program.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so they are fantastic. A big shout out to them. They provide materials and a lot of advice, strategic advice, while we're in our MVP stage of development, right? And so, they, in no way is there any contention or hostility. They see us very much a part of taking on, a market in which they're just not able to enter, right? And so, it's a relationship where we need each other, right? And so we're very grateful and we're very excited for, to be working with them. I initially, when we got the news, I've heard of course, Thermo Fisher. I've used their products, but then, I somehow got across their Wikipedia page, and I had no idea they were that large and be worth over, I think, like $60 billion. So
Wow.
yeah, and but here's the beauty of it, right? You have to be strategic in your partnerships, and we're very grateful for them. They are huge in the testing market, right? And so, when you say pharma, right, that's what I'm thinking. And
Yep.
Thermo Fisher is really biotech,
Mm.
and that's the heart of what we're doing, right? We're hardware and software focused,
Yeah.
right? No, no injectables, right? No, you know, drugs of any kind. So it's bordering on medical device more than pharma, right? Although we are not a medical device, but
Yes,
we're very closely aligned to,
for sure.
right, the goals, and so
Thank you for making that distinction. I think it was good, just education for me as well to really um, have a great idea on the space that you're
delineation,
in.
yeah, the
Um,
delineation for sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
I also just want to make a quick comment that what you just said is so you, right? I think I've witnessed your power of forming partnership, of forming
absolutely,
great friendship and great relationship. And it's just amazing to see that you bring that into your corporate venture as well, right?
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
when what people assume are confrontations, conflicts, competitions, you turn it into partnership and a
Uh,
win-win situation. And that's just the personal magic you have. So
You're just being nice to me. Thanks, Gary. I
um
appreciate it. Yeah, well, I try. I mean, it's a very conflict is everywhere, right? And so, you know, we hold a very strong culture. We try to, reinforce Senthil and I and the rest of the team, Ben, Ed, Rich, and Don, in working out our problems and dialogue, right? Um, and that puts us in a great position in order to really do some self practice, and then apply it, right?
yeah,
Translate it into something tangible with external partners, right?
yeah,
Or be it nonprofits, law enforcement, or public health,
yeah.
right?
Last question I have for you in terms of the business side of things and fundraising is,
Sure.
as you mentioned, you are creating a venture in the biotech space, and the biotech space is has seen some scandals in recent years, right? We
Oh
know
yeah.
about the Theranos
Sure.
case. So when you go out and pitch to investors your business, do you think you're facing more scrutiny, more questions due to the past scandals, and how have those affected your business and your fundraising journey?
You know, we're we're our focus is working very hard in order to prove to ourselves and to our partners that what we have works, and what we have is a game changer. And so that might mean working, you know, 80 extra hours a week in order to get to the product development we need to at the MVP stage, where all of our library reference data is good enough to use in the real world. And so we know we've been told, and we have always had the faith that you let the product speak for itself, and we don't rely on fancy mock-ups or designs. We just we're working overtime to make sure that what we have works, and what we will have can deliver the change we intend.
That's amazing. I wish
Yeah.
you the best of luck
Thank you, Gary.
as you grow, as you expand. So let's talk about milestones
Yeah.
and future plans. Let's look towards the
Yeah,
future, right?
absolutely.
I think I just heard that you've had some exciting milestones that you've achieved very recently.
Yes. Oh, yes. We did. We had a venture call today with Dr. Ching Zhang at LDV Partners, who also funded my former startup that I worked for, Biotechnology, who's making wearable neurotech out of MIT and Cambridge. And so it was a very great call, and lots of lessons learned, and it was very engaging, and we're hopeful, and we're very proud. They reached out to us. We didn't
Right.
reach out to them. It was just a kind of like a, hey, great, I've read about you, and they messaged us on LinkedIn, and so we celebrate the small wins. In terms of milestones, you know, we are uh, again focused on MVP, and so that is taking the bulk of Sentinel and Ice time, right? So contract manufacturing, and PCB design, and right, everything. I mean, what we've done so far, right, is market research, right? But in terms of the prototyping phase, component selection, circuit design, mass production without large purchase minimums, right? You know, uh, Unit economics, buying in bulk. I mean, it's hardware is hard, right?
Hardware is hard.
Hardware is very, very hard. And so, you know, we're focused on delivering the best MVP, first MVP we can. So Q3 uh, of this year is really about production readiness, and MVP and pilot studies. Q1 of next year will be public launch, and beta launch, and so um, Q4 is really about partnerships, right? And then we have revenue and sales growth. Will God willing, people willing,
Right.
community willing. But yeah, our major milestone is December of this year.
That's
And so if you'd like to learn more, and if you'd want to, learn more, hop on our beta test list at snowflake-labs.com. Um, Click learn more, and then sign up using your email. You could follow us on LinkedIn. We've got an online presence on LinkedIn. I believe our media intern will be making a Instagram page, right? That's what
wow.
all the young people are on nowadays. I,
Yeah.
I just I realize the benefits of it. I don't have Instagram myself, but um, yeah, so you can certainly stay tuned.
Sometimes you gotta meet the users where they
Yeah,
are
exactly. Absolutely.
on
Yeah.
Instagram, on TikTok, etc. So
Yeah.
from your journey so far, right? And it sounds like an amazing journey. It sounds like you have a great roadmap ahead of where you want to go, where you want to be. What has been your most valuable lesson as a startup founder in the biotech and healthcare market?
Oh gosh, that's great. I think resiliency, patience, and learning how to take a break when you need it.
Mm,
Right. I mean, you know, it's running a startup is not for the faint of heart at all. Right. It takes you know dedication and passion in my case. And so I I think that the best thing I'm motivated by is the potential change I could see. Um, and I think I speak for the rest of the team when I say that, you know, we're ready.
let's
We're
go.
ready, and we want to do this, and we are in such again, a unique position that failure is not an option.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, we also learn through failure, right?
Yeah.
So we're excited for the future and succeeding, and yeah, we'll
Take sail.
we're excited to take sail. Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, just no one startup is a smooth sail. There's so many failures until you finally
Sure.
hit the one big jackpot
Yep.
and make it through. So building that resiliency is so key to be able to struggle through, push through for all the difficulties, to make the hard decisions, and ultimately, right, achieve your vision and your mission. I also really appreciate you calling out that sometimes you need a break, right? Startup
Totally.
founders are humans too,
Yeah.
and you can't be going at 200 miles per hour every
Yeah.
day, every second.
Yeah.
People might tell you that
Right.
that's what you need to do,
Right.
but
I mean, you do it at your place of work, but I'm nothing like you, Gary. I mean, best engineer, and honestly, it's about friends, right? I can't tell you the countless times you've offered help, right? I mean, whether it's something on the front end or back end with Senthil and I mean, even you know anything you offer insight, right? It's about a great support system, right? That really furthers the resiliency and keeps us in check too, because
yeah,
boy do we get in our own little world sometimes. So
for sure.
thank you.
No, absolutely. I think that's all the questions I have today.
Yeah.
Thank you again for
Thank you.
joining us on the show today.
It was a pleasure.
As you've mentioned, folks, if you're interested in this amazing company, in the amazing product they're building, the amazing mission that Clarence is trying to achieve with Santhro, with the team at Snowflake Labs, you can find them at snowflake-labs.com.
Yeah.
Please join them on their beta testing if you're interested. I know that I'll be looking for that sign up. Look out for their social media. All the links I'll put into the show notes. And yeah, thank you again for joining us today.
Dude, it was a pleasure. Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
And best of luck to you and Snowflake Labs.
Let's go, baby. We got it.